And welcome into the Joe Thomas half hour of the program here.
The best.
The great Hoff has joined us. He is the Meat Santa. He has meat sticks for everybody, and he joins us now.
Meat Santa's delivered.
Meat Santa's delivered in a big way. There's meat offs that are happening and winning.
They're winning
overwhelmingly.
They're saying,
steak
please,
offs,
it's too much winning.
Offs.
It's too much winning.
It's so much.
So much winning.
Just all dubs for
man.
Hall of Fame beef. Unfortunately, we're not talking about a win. But I did want to. I know. Listen, we can do it the best we can. It's a Monday going into a holiday. Hoff,
so good.
I do think this is the takeaway from the biggest takeaway for me from this game is what happened to Quinshon. And you've been in those spots. And I am always in awe of how you guys, when you have something like that happen, can play the next play. And I guess you're just conditioned to it, but it's a remarkable thing. How do you handle as a professional athlete when you see something that horrific and then in 30 seconds you got to go play?
It's really challenging. It's one of the hardest parts of playing football, but
it's
something that you've been trained since the day you started playing. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that because the week after I retired, or I was done playing before I retired, but my career was basically over at that point. Didn't know it, but it was. And I wrote an article with Monday Morning Quarterback, which I'm not even sure if they're around anymore, and the article was titled "Move the Drill." Because from the moment you start playing football, what happens, right? You're doing 9-on-7, you're one-on-one pass pro, somebody goes down, boom, bad injury. Everyone's looking at him. Everybody's has that feeling in their stomach of, oh no, I hope he's okay. What's going on? Trainers are going over there. And instead of, doing the humanity thing that you would normally do on the playground, everyone gathers around. Hey, are you okay? Let me help you out. What does the coach bark? He blows the whistle. Beep. Move the drill. And you just move over. Jeez. And then life goes on and the game keeps going. The train keeps going down the tracks. And it's the cold, hard reality of the game of football. But it's something that you learn at a very early age that, hey, you know what? When we line back up and the next play starts, you got to be able to wipe everything that happened before then. And you got to give all the focus that you have in your body and your mind on that next play. Because you know what? There's a lot of lives on the line again when we go and play this violent game on the very next snap. And so I think it is something that you do learn very early in the game of football. It's never easy. And certainly seeing one of your young stars in Quinshon laying there in a lot of pain, and they didn't even show the replay. Z, I'm not sure if you saw the replay back yet from the TV copy, but they wouldn't even show it because they said it was so bad. So I still haven't seen what happened. I guess I don't really need to after just hearing the report.
I mean, from where I was in the booth, because the play was going on, and I was just kind of looking at Quinshon, and you said earlier, like when you see him kind of hit the ground, it's bad. And I kind of looked at his leg, and I think I said, "Oh God," on the broadcast. I go, his foot is pointed the wrong way, and so I knew at that point that was not going to be a good outcome. And it's brutal. I mean, we talk so much. We love that Cowboys documentary so much.
Yeah,
and they show the clip of, wasn't it Jimmy Johnson when the guy got hurt? And he was like, "Get him off my field."
Get him off my field. Yeah,
and you're just like, it's savage. But he goes, I think it would just be hard in a moment like that where you see something like that. And we had it, unfortunately, with Nick Chubb in Pittsburgh, where it was just one of those where everybody immediately knows, like, because you can look at it and you're like, this is not how the anatomy works. I'm not surprised that people can get and line up and play. What's amazing to me is that there isn't a change in the style of play, because I'd imagine it makes you confront your football mortality in such a real way that you'd be thinking, man, I got to protect myself. But the second, I've heard you and countless others say it, if you play to not get hurt, that's when you get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to play 100% and give everything you've got on every play, because it's when you're not doing that the pile's falling on the back of your legs, because you're not moving your man out of the hole, or you're not going all in on that tackle. You're kind of, pity pattering the feet and getting ready to try to make a careful tackle, and then somebody else comes and flies in there, and then you get hit, and you're not bracing, and your mind is not moving at the speed it needs to when you're not playing at full speed, right? You need your reactions, your mind, to be able to absorb everything that's happening around you and make these ultra lightning quick reactions to be able to avoid injuries that happen on every play. Like, how many times are you seeing a guy who's just about to get his legs knocked out from under him and the cleat pops up and he twists his body in the right direction? I mean, you subconsciously do that as a football player. And it's just those skills that you've learned throughout the years on how to protect yourself. And you're not even thinking about it. And it has to happen at such a quick little interval that the only way you can do that is if you're playing at full speed and your brain is moving as fast as it possibly can to be able to avoid those things over and over again. But I think it's the beauty of how the brain works. The great Bob Wiley taught me a lot about the neurons and the connections that you're making. And for your entire football career, it happens in practice. You play a play, you go back to the huddle, immediately you snap in as soon as that quarterback walks into the huddle and he tells you that play, and you're thinking about, what did he say? What do I need to do? What do I need to be prepared for? And what is the defense potentially going to do to me that could change what I have to do? And so I think it's just that process and that routine that you've done so many times in your life that allows you to get back in the huddle and then play the game the exact same way you did, even though your brother just experienced a very, very graphic injury that ended his season. And you're saying, well, crap, what if that happens to me? But you can't have that mentality. And I think it's one of the challenging things, but it's one of the things that define you as a professional football player.
Huff, and I know that the next evolution for the NFL is to go to 18 games. How are we going to keep this league going in the back half of seasons?
Question.
I mean, you look at, the injuries. We're going to, as it goes into this week, and maybe Dylan Sampson will be okay, but we're going to go into this week with, a running back that we just signed 2 weeks ago, and Rocket Sanders, who's an undrafted free agent that we got from the Chargers, who played in week 1 and hadn't played since.
Yep.
We've got cornerbacks that are playing on our team right now off the streets. We literally have defensive tackles who are off the streets, and the Chargers saw Mo Hurst in there and Aiden Huntington and Mason Graham and Shelby on the sideline. They're like, we're going to go hurry up so you can't sub.
Yep.
And they ran right up the middle, literally I think it was like 5 plays in a row, and it was the parting of the seas. We've got quarterback matchups now where we have, I don't know how many teams are onto their third quarterback. I know we're technically onto our third quarterback, but kind of by choice more than by necessity. But you're going to have in Kansas City, who's going to miss the playoffs, they're going to be playing their third quarterback. You're at the third quarterback with Minnesota. You've got, the Christmas Day slate. We were talking about the quarterback matchups. There isn't one game where both teams still have their starting quarterback.
No. Look at what happened. I mean, the Lions team that was out there last night.
Oh, their defense is
it's
ravaged.
And that's 2 years in a row for them. I just don't understand. I mean, it's too much, Huff. It's too much. It's too many injuries, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, every team across the league is thinking the same thing. I was talking to my buddy at church the other day. He's a Vikings fan. He's telling me about all the injuries they got, the Bears. Like, it doesn't matter who you are at this point in the season, you're really banged up. And unfortunately, you add more games, you're going to have more injuries. And this was one of the things that they talked about with the last CBA when we were talking about going to 17, then 18 games, is like having legit load management where you have 18 games and you have to pick which 16 your guys are going to play. I hate that approach. I don't think it's good for the game, but I think it's pretty clear that more games is more revenue, and that's the direction the ownership wants to go. And I just don't know how you have a good product at the end of the season with the number of injuries you just get playing football. It's just the nature of the game.
Do you think, and this is just me like thinking out loud, because at the end of the day, you're going to go to 18. Heck, at this point, why not just go to 20? And just hear me out when I say this, because the preseason games are kind of wastes in some sense now.
Sure.
And would it matter to the body if you knew, and they have enough teams in the league to be able to do this, where we saw that in the week where you had 6 teams on a bye, you had Thursday window, you had I think a Saturday, a Sunday, a Monday. You could still get enough stuff. You had 3 on Thanksgiving week. You had 3 games on Thursday, you had games on Saturday, you had games on Sunday, you had game on Monday. But where you play, would it matter to your body if you knew after every 5 games that you got a week off, as opposed to going 8-1-8 or 8-1-9, kind of like we did this year? That if everybody in the league, it was like 5 weeks on, and you could kind of stagger it, but 5 weeks on, and you could have 16 teams off 1 week. So you'd never play more than 6 games at a time. 5 or 6 games, week off. 5 or 6 games, week off. 5 or 6 games, week off. And then the final 5 into the playoffs. Would that help the body, or is it just it's actually the number of actual games that matter more than the rest getting natural breaks every quarter?
I think it would help the mind a little bit knowing that like you're kind of playing little segments of the season and then you're always getting a break. I think it would help with the nagging injuries, like the hamstrings, the soft tissues, those things that you can kind of come back from in a few weeks. Or hey, if you give yourself a little bit more time, right, you're going to be back to almost 100% and then you're not going to re-injure it. But I think the biggest issue is just those catastrophic injuries like what we saw with Quinshon, right? It's those injuries where the season's over, bang, right there, that add up the most towards the end of the season because, a couple happen in week 1 and then you have a couple maybe towards the middle quarter of the season. And then all of a sudden it just adds up and all your stars are banged up. But I think really the better approach rather than going to 18 games, and this is something that I've been advocating for a long time because I think it's good for the players, it's good for the fans. And, it makes more money for the league is instead of adding more games, let's add 2 bye weeks that are for everybody and it's staggered, like you mentioned. So you actually have more weeks of football. Your team and your players don't have to play more games, but you just extend the season by another week or 2 because you do throw those bye weeks in there. And players love it. Hey, we get paid in our bye week. That's a good thing, right? The league's loving it. The networks are loving it because they're getting more weeks of football, but you're not actually putting more games out there where you're going to have more of these season-ending IR type injuries.
That's a good idea. It just feels like you're getting the last couple of weeks here where it is rough putting these matchups together and some of these games, some of these teams that are being trotted out there, they're just such a shell of what they were intended to be. And it's like just survival of try to stay and field a team and go play a game in the National Football League. It does not seem like it's good. Let's talk a little bit about this game on Sunday, aside from the Quinshon part of it. It featured, and I was listening on the call with you and Andrew Z as we were on our way back from basketball, and I think you were right. I went and watched it. That's the best drive that we've had all year was the opening drive of this game. It was sensational. It was kind of everything that you wanted. Inevitably, Buffalo was able to hold sway. When you watch a game like this, Hoff, how do you define success for this Browns team on a given Sunday like the one we had yesterday?
Well, a little bit of it is staying healthy, which unfortunately we weren't able to do, but specifically thinking about, all right, what are the things we're trying to accomplish down the stretch, right? We want guys to play hard. We want guys to make improvement and general improvement from a performance standpoint, but also growth as a player, right? And growth within the system. And I think you saw that from Shedeur. I think it was really exciting watching him complete the first 8 passes in that first drive, going down, scoring that touchdown, making good decisions, showing some toughness through that pinky injury, showing mobility, the ability to say like, I'm going to make a play here. I'm going to get this first down with my legs. Like that was all really, really good. And I think it gave you a lot of reasons for hope watching Shedeur, because when you think about, all right, what does the first drive of the game mean? To me, it usually means, all right, like how good was our game plan and how good were we with figuring out the tendencies of what the defense is going to show up at the beginning of the game and how do we attack it, right? But then it's also like, what was my quarterback able to take from the meetings and the practice during the week and apply it to game day? Because basically this is the second or third time you're going through this script and this drive. It's the first time, of course, against the opponent and playing live football, but you're doing this several times during the week, including the day before the game, where you're getting an opportunity to walk through, to jog through what you're going to see. And I think it's a great indicator of an ability to learn, to be able to apply what you're taking from film and from practice and showing it up on Sundays. And so that was a really, really bright sign for me when I saw that opening drive with Shedeur. I saw the great accuracy, completing all those passes in a row and the decision making. So I think optimistically, it was a really, really nice step in the right direction for Shedeur in that sense. And really, I mean, other than Miles getting the sack record, which is why all Browns fans are still cheering and they're still interested, like we want to see Shedeur develop. We want him to be able to grab that job as the starting quarterback for next year and then start to build around him. But he's got to prove it and he's got to show that steady improvement like he did this week.
How do you deal with, and I think as the game went on for Shedeur, where it became very difficult, especially in obvious passing situations, is that they were consistently able to get home with 4, and the tackles were having a really difficult time with Joey Bosa and Greg Rousseau. And so now you got 7 in coverage. They were clearly taking away the deep ball. I mean, they were too high a lot of this game. And I just feel like it got tough for Shedeur. What's going on with our tackle play? Because right now it feels like that to me is, as you look into next year and you say you got 2 1s, I think Shedeur's shown at least enough that you could say to yourself, let's give it a year and see what it really looks like if we do everything we can catered for him. He gets every rep because we need tackles. We need receivers.
Yep.
We need a lot of stuff. But what were you seeing from our tackles? Because I thought it was a very tough performance.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're just too soft on the edges. And when you're collapsing the pocket from the outside like that, there's just no space to move within the pocket. And you mentioned the coverage. When you're getting home with 4, you got a lot of dudes in coverage. There's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of windows. There's not a lot of like easy throws, easy completions. And Shedeur just doesn't have that comfort level, I think, just yet to be able to throw it in there in a tight window. You know, we saw it a little bit at the beginning of the game, but I think a lot of times you end up seeing that check down, which is a good answer if they are playing a lot of coverage and you don't feel great about forcing the ball down the field. But, you know, they're going to start taking that away too. And so you got to find different ways to attack them. But when your tackles are getting pushed back, your pocket's compressed, now your quarterback, who maybe is going to want to try to find some space and escape and do the playmaking things that Shedeur has shown in college that made him a fan favorite and that he's shown here in his short time in Cleveland. But it's really hard to do that because there's no space. Like your guards, we always say the guards are responsible for the firmness of the front of the pocket for a quarterback to be able to step up. And then the tackles are responsible for the width of the pocket and the depth. And so if you don't have that width, and the depth, you're in trouble because everything squeezes down really, really fast. And unless you're a Josh Allen 6'6" guy that's really hard to take down, there's really not a whole lot of operation space in there. And you're putting them behind the 8 ball to try to throw the ball against a defense like that when your protection is so soft.
They did a pretty good job. I mean, I thought he made some plays with his legs that were excellent, even got out of some where you thought for sure that play where he was going down, and he got out of it.
I just think it's so hard because I mean he took some bad sacks, you know, towards the end. It's hard to know. Like, I just think it's very difficult to evaluate these guys these time of years in these type of circumstances.
Yep,
because none of it's clean. Right, the protection isn't clean. I mean, just look. I mean, the Chief hasn't played in forever. Like, you don't have what you now. Nobody does, but you're trying to make decisions, like franchise decisions, at the most important position in all of sport. And we've got this runway of games to watch him play, and it's like, boy, how do you know? I mean, that's not our decision to make.
No Posick, no Teller.
No, I know.
No
that's what
DeLand,
no same
Conklin,
thing is going on.
No Njoku.
The same thing is going on with like Jackson Dart with the Giants. Like, they don't have anybody either.
Nobody.
Like, I don't know how you can identify if a kid's doing something well or not in this.
I think he's shown enough. The glimpses. I think you're looking for glimpses. I think it's going to be hard to maintain it for 60 minutes. But I thought we saw some glimpses in here that were pretty good.
Yeah, you're grading everything on a curve. I mean, unless you're in those meeting rooms, you don't know what the coaching is from Kevin Stefanski to Shedeur. You don't know what it's like from the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. Yeah. But those are the things that he'll be evaluated on, right? And us as fans, we have no idea, but they know in those meetings, like, hey, this is what we asked him to do. This is where we wanted his eyes to be. This is where we were asking his footwork. And if the pocket's collapsing and he's not able to get to his second or third read and the first read's not open and the defense in the secondary is closing those windows tightly like Buffalo does, like, you just have to grade him on basically what you've told him to do. And we talked about this a week ago. It is tough. There's not a lot of easy things and easy throws out there when you're not getting the protection you need, but you just have to look at, all right, what are we asking him to do? And then was he able to do that until the point that the pocket broke down? And I think without being in that room, it's hard to know exactly, but I think he did a great job of it. I mean, it seems like other than those things that you mentioned, you know, starting to take sacks, which really is more of, in my opinion, like he didn't feel comfortable throwing into tight windows. There was no easy answers to throw the football down the field. And so he was really sort of in that tough moment where he didn't really know exactly what to do. And then typically you do fall back on some of those bad habits of trying to escape out of the back of the pocket or holding on to it too long. But it's a tough situation when you're trying to come back from a deficit, right? You need to make some plays. So holding onto the ball sometimes is the right answer in those situations because you got to find a way to extend the play and throw the football down the field. And if it's not available within the pocket and then your pocket collapses, you know, you can't really put the blame solely on him for taking those sacks because it's like, well, did you want me to throw the interception? Nobody was open. Or did you want me to try to make a play, which I did? And, you know, unfortunately, I'm not Michael Vick back there, but I did my best and it didn't work out. So we're going to get better from it.
And it's also been, you know, our wide receivers in this game. You got 3 for 12 from Jeudy, 1 for 8 from Cedric Tillman. You got 2 for 11 from Malachi Corley, and you got one of the great stat anomalies of all time, Isaiah Bond, 0 targets, 0 catches, and 21 receiving yards, because on that end around to him, it was actually a shovel, so it counts as a pass, and then he's the one who gets credit for the yards because he took that pass. So, by the way, Isaiah Bond is up to now over 19 yards a catch because he just got 20 yards.
20 yards on that one.
20
that helps.
yards for nothing. But we got to get our receivers going. But part of that is time, and part of that is comfort, and all of those things. It's just, you look at this team and you say the Bills are a team that feels like they can come out of the AFC, right? And maybe they have too many flaws. Maybe we saw some of that in this one, but we're again, and I hate to bring it up, but a bad snap pulled situation from a field goal that, had we made that field goal at the end of the first half, it's tied at the end of the game.
We're at the point now, though, with that where that just has to be expected every week. So, like, if it doesn't happen, it's like, celebrate it.
That's what we want.
Clean special teams. Yeah. Yay. We haven't had that all season. I mean, that's who we are.
We're tough.
I mean, we've got 2 games left. This is we expect
100%. Yeah, that is who we are.
Yeah. All right, let's do the Trench Report. It's brought to you by Big Fig, the mattress made for more, crafted in Cleveland, just like our Browns. Man, we got 2 games to get Miles' sack off. What can you do? I mean, it's like the last thing that we got to get done this year is get this done for him. I'd love to do it this weekend. He gets Pittsburgh at home. What can they do? And it's not going to be easy. Rodgers gets it out of his hand in about 1/8 of a second most of the time now. How can they make sure that this happens Sunday?
Well, it's going to be tough. I was pissed at the Buffalo Bills because Miles is always getting a lot of extra attention, but it seems like he's getting even more attention because these teams are saying, no, we don't want him to set the record against us. I mean, there was a lot of times in this game.
I think that is a problem.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue.
Yeah.
What's that?
They ran, first of all, they doubled him or tripled him every single play, and every pocket was moving to the right. And I was kind of watching it being like, are we going to ever put him on the other side, or let's run a nickel blitz off that side so that as soon as he's trying to break contain to the right, he's running into a blitzer. Because they were the only time Miles got close on that one play was when he held it, he looked, he went, like it was only, they weren't even really throwing the ball a lot either right there. Guys give me a hard time right now. They weren't throwing it a lot, and if they did, it was either out quick. At one point, he had 12 attempts, 6 of them were catch and throws, and the others were, other than the one where he was close and got that half a sack, which is a wild scoring situation, but everything else was a sprint out right, like running away from him, and they tried to make him go all the way around the horn. And
Pittsburgh's going to do the same thing.
They definitely don't want it against
them.
No,
it's not happening against them.
TJ Watt is everybody talks about it being Strahan's record, and he did set it, but TJ Watt did tie him.
Yeah, they're not getting. So what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Like the one time, I mean, Deion Dawkins is a Pro Bowl. He's a great left tackle, and Miles put his head down. And this was when, I think at the point in the game where they had readjusted that like weird almost safety, that they split the sack between Miles and Mason Graham. And then it was like, okay, Miles needs 1 sack, and he breaks the record. He sets the new record, 23 sacks. And I don't know if he knew on the sideline, because it was like they put turbo mode on him, because he put his head down and did a bull rush like I don't think I've ever seen before, except for out in Spain when they do the running of the bulls. I mean, this thing was brutal. Like I would have cried if he did that to me, and my helmet would have shattered. He put his head down and put his hands into Deion Dawkins' chest and lifted a 330-pound man up and threw him into the quarterback to the point where Deion was on his tippy toes, grabbed the back of Miles' helmet and flipped it off.
Ripped it off.
You saw it on the telecast. Miles is just looking at the ref going, are you kidding me? Are you watching this?
Yeah, no penalty.
And
no
he
flag.
was laughing, and I give him credit for not like dwelling on that one moment and being distracted from another opportunity, because he has been held his entire career. So he's got to be used to not having the refs throw the penalty flag. But in that moment, I was just like, Jesus, like what more can he do? Like he had his helmet ripped off and he threw the tackle into the quarterback. Of course, Josh Allen ran the hell out of there because he knew what was happening. But really the whole game, Deion Dawkins and David Edwards were double teaming him. And David's a good left guard. Like that's 650 pounds of human resource to one person, and they still weren't able to block him because Josh Allen still was running out of the pocket to the right. So, I mean, it's just going to have to be good luck to have that happen against the Steelers, where for some reason Aaron just hangs onto the football and like starts to scramble around and runs right into him, because they are not going to allow him to be even double teamed. I mean, he's going to get chipped and double teamed on every play.
he got chipped, and then, as you said, Deion Dawkins, a 4-time Pro Bowler. Now, that's not something that the Steelers have, because what they started to try to do was Dawkins would kind of get him going up the field outside, and then as second Miles tried to break it back inside, that guard looked like he wasn't there and then would come sprint and just basically hit him.
Yep.
And I've seen Joel do that with you. I remember years ago, and that's when he got rocked a couple times because that guy's coming with a running start just to hit him.
Yeah, I mean,
it's gonna.
We would try to do that against your better defensive ends that were trying to bull rush a lot, right? Because it kind of discourages the bull rush because they know I'm going to bull rush this tackle and I'm going to start moving him back, but I'm very vulnerable now because I got 2 hands in his chest and my ribs are very available to that left guard to come over and take a big chomp out of those barbecue ribs right there, and it hurts. And you got a big man at guard who's got a 5 or 6 yard head start to sprint as fast as he can and put his helmet right into your rib cage. Like, it discourages the bull rush pretty quickly. And so we would try to dial up a few of those protections early on in the game when you knew you were going to get a 4-man rush and you knew that this was a big bull rush guy and we want to kind of send a message early. But I mean, they were doing it the whole game because they had no choice. You have no choice when you're going against Miles. There's nobody on planet Earth that's ever walked that could block him consistently. It's just not possible. He's just on that type of a superhuman level.
Is there anything that Schwartz can do?
I was surprised we didn't move him around.
That's what they're going to do. I hope they do that against Pittsburgh, because if you line them up in one spot over the left tackle, I mean, they're going to have a plan for that. But line them up over the guard, move them around. Let them kind of play the game where just say, hey, Miles, line up wherever you want, and then substitute and switch somebody so we have contain and we have the gaps covered. But just lining him up over the left tackle is not going to work. They got to move him around. They got to blitz a few guys, I think, and stunt Miles. And, you see a lot of times when they're running games and stunts inside where Miles can kind of get free and find a one-on-one because they're switching assignments by running those stunts on the line of scrimmage.
Because at that wide 9, if he's out in that wide 9, it's a long way to the quarterback. I know you're shortening the angle in the sense that you're getting wider, but if they're running away from you and you're that already 5 yards out, it's hard. I want him to get it. I know you're exactly right. It's going to have to be one where Rodgers' first read isn't there. He pulls it down, and before he can even do anything else, it's boom. He's just getting crushed.
Yeah, and it feels like it's one where we're going to – I mean, if we got a lead and got them to play off a rhythm, that would be beneficial in a big way, because if they get to play in their way, then they're never going to – he's not going to hold it. He's just not going to hold the ball for it. They're going to dictate how to play.
So we went – and when we played there – we didn't sack Rodgers once.
Well, for the longest part of this year, he's got For the longest part of this year, he's been getting it out of his hands faster than anybody in the league.
Yep.
I haven't looked at it in the last 3 weeks or so, but that's how it had been for the longest point.
He has been sacked. So it was 0 against us, and then he's had in the last few weeks, he had 3, 3, 3, 1, 1, 0, 3, 2. So that would be the last 8 games. He's had 3, 3, 3, 9, 10, 11. 6 to a game on average over the last 8. So hopefully
some opportunity there. Hoff, it is Christmas this week. What's on the menu for Christmas dinner?
Well, we had Christmas dinner at my sister's last night, and my brother-in-law cooked up one of those Hall of Fame beef, full-blood Wagyu prime ribs with the Master Z recipe was. Oh, I almost swore. It was so good. It almost made my mom swear, and I don't think she's ever sworn. We had Grandma Martini's was there. She said it was the best prime rib she's ever had in her life. So I got to thank Dr. Z for the amazing sous vide recipe. It was on point. It was so good because, sometimes when you do a medium rare prime rib, it has a little chewiness when you get into that center of that prime rib. Not this one, baby. It was like butter all the way through. It just melted right in your mouth. And then you have that amazing cap that gets seared, and it gets that rosemary and that garlic and that crust that forms with that delicious fat on the outside. I mean, people were fighting each other. Even the little children were fighting for those end caps that were just covered in that crust, caps. Man. It was unlike anything I'd ever had in my entire life. It was so good. So how do we follow that up? I don't know. I don't think we eat anything. I think we just fast all the way now till the new year.
Fast right
that was it. I'm happy having that be the last meal I had of the entire year of 2025.
Hoff, what is your favorite gift you ever got as a kid?
I think it was 12, and I got a boombox with a dual cassette deck, which allowed me to dub, and to make mixtapes by, recording on one, and then you'd play it. And then it was the best gift. I think I've never had probably more joy for a Christmas or really any gift in my life than that moment, because it unlocked the universe of music to me and the ability to take songs that I was recording that I listened to on the radio and make those amazing mixtapes that I could listen to, before sporting events or as I'm outside in the driveway shooting hoops at night with my gloves on because it's 10 below zero in Wisconsin. It was amazing. I'd love to hear what you guys have as your favorite gift ever, because that one is one I'll never, ever forget.
And you're leaving out a part. I imagine young 12-year-old Hoff, may have started to the attention of the fairer sex, and kids today don't know the joy of making a mixtape for a young lady and bestowing it upon her. And that was a great,
heartfelt.
It was a big part of the wooing process back then. Yeah, when he pulled out a mixtape. Yeah,
you may be on the fence, but maybe take a listen.
now,
yes.
Now you're in.
You're not saying no now, are you, sweetheart? No.
I would say my favorite was, I remember I got the X-Wing. It was like a big old
for Star
X-Wing from Star Wars. When I was young, and I was like, I wanted that thing, and it was awesome. And then I was bummed because then it came with the battle decals, so that you knew like it had been shot up a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you couldn't take those decals off.
No, they stayed.
So I was like, I kind of wanted it back to be pristine again.
I had I can't remember how old I was, 10 or 11. I got the USS Flag, the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. I got that thing maybe 10 or 11. There's still remnants of it at my dad's place, but it's remnants at best. But that was a big one. And I didn't realize it was a rare thing at that time, but I've talked about it in recent years, and people are like, I can't believe you had that. Like, I don't know. Just got lucky. I don't know what it was.
Broski would be able to break down exactly. He's an old toy collector.
Is he really?
He'd be
yeah. The old, so that was a good one. The old St. Nick took care of me on that one. Well, listen, Hoff, Merry Christmas to you and your family, buddy. All the best. We'll be visiting with you soon as the Meet Santa bids adieu on holiday week.
Man.
That was a Joe Thomas half hour of the program, and that was Cleveland Browns Daily. Thank you so much for listening. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.